You know, we humans have this incredible impulse. We just have to give names to the things we discover. And it doesn't matter if it's a microscopic speck of dust older than the Earth itself or a giant boulder on a completely different planet. It's like naming things is just part of how we explore. So, where did this whole tradition even come from?
Okay, so imagine for a second that you could hold a piece of the early solar system right in your hand. The thing is, you can't. Not really. These things are so incredibly tiny, so delicate, that scientists have this amazing description for them: fairy castles. And they're not just pretty, these are ancient particles that have been zipping through space for billions of years.
So, that's the big question, right? How in the world do you even begin to study these cosmic messengers? I mean, what kind of practically invisible grain of dust actually tell us about the chaotic birth of our solar system? Well, to get to that answer, first we've got to know exactly what we're looking at. And believe me, this isn't the kind of dust you find under your couch. This stuff is primordial. It's the leftovers from the very birth of the stars. Okay, the official name is interplanetary dust particles, or IDPs for short. The best way to think about them is like they're the leftover Legos from when the planets were built, little tiny bits of debris from comets and asteroids. So yeah, they are literally little time capsules. And get this, we actually collect them with high-flying airplanes way up in our own stratosphere. How cool is that? So what makes these little guys so special? Well, for one, they're in a class all their own. They're considered a third category of stuff from space, completely different from meteorites or moon rocks. They're older than Earth, and somehow their super delicate, almost fluffy structures manage to survive this insane, fiery plunge through our atmosphere. It's just wild. But as you can probably guess, trying to study something this fragile and this small, well, it's a huge challenge. And what's really interesting is that when you spend that much time focusing on one tiny thing, you start to build this surprisingly personal relationship with it. There's this quote from a scientist, P. Frondorf, that just perfectly captures the scale we're talking about. He said that for someone using an electron microscope, one tiny 5 micrometer grain of dust is the same as a geologist in the field trying to analyze a 3-ton boulder. I mean, can you even imagine? The amount of effort is just monumental. So, yeah, when you pour years of your life into studying just a handful of these little particles, something really human starts to kick in. Frondorf's team, for instance, they spent 5 years with just 11 grains of dust. Think about that. At that point, you're not just studying them, you're really truly getting to know them. And that's when something totally unexpected happened. Alongside all the super formal scientific codes, they started giving these little IDPs nicknames. So you've got this one particle, U2015B10, that they called blow up. Because, yep, it blew up while they were analyzing it. Another one was called lost and found. After it, you guessed it, got lost for a bit. It was just a simple human way to tell their tiny little subjects apart. So this whole practice, right, it just started out of necessity, a way to keep things straight in a lab back in the late 70s. But what they didn't know was that they were starting this unofficial tradition. And it was a tradition that was going to end up on a much, much bigger stage. So you got to ask, right? Was this just some cute little quirk from one team of scientists staring into microscopes all day? Or is this impulse we have, this need to name things, is it tapping into something way deeper about how we do science, about how we discover things? Well, it turns out the answer is pretty incredible. There's this amazing parallel story. Because while those scientists were naming dust particles back in the 70s, decades later, a totally different group of scientists, planetary geologists, started doing the exact same thing. Only they were doing it with giant rocks on Mars. And this tradition, which really took off with a rock named Yogi back in 1997, is still going strong today. Okay, so let's jump into this planetary scale tradition. Because even though the size of what they're naming is totally different, the reason they're doing it, well, that's almost exactly the same. All right, now let's take a little trip about 140 million miles away. So while one team is hunched over a microscope looking at dust, you've got this other team staring at screens, looking at pictures being beamed back from the surface of Mars. Let's set the scene. It's 1997. NASA's Pathfinder rover has just made it to Mars. It's sending back these incredible first images from the surface. And the science team has a problem, a good problem. They've got to figure out how to talk about all these different rocks. So what do you think they do? Of course, They started naming them, basically creating a Martian Hall of Fame. You've got Yogi and Barnacle Bill from the Pathfinder days, then there's El Capitan, a famous one from the Opportunity rover. The Insight Lander team even named one Rolling Stones rock. It's awesome. Every name has a little backstory about the mission, about the people who are a part of it. Okay, so let's just recap for a second. We have two totally separate groups of scientists, working decades apart, looking at things on completely opposite ends of the size spectrum, and they both, on their own, start this same tradition of giving things nicknames. Which brings us back to the big question, why? What's going on here? When you really get down to it, the size doesn't matter at all. Doesn't matter if it's a tiny fairy castle of space dust or a boulder the size of a car on Mars. Our brains just have this instinct to take something that's unknown and try to make it known. And the reasons for this are, well, they're both super practical and actually kind of profound. Giving something a name makes it feel less alien, more familiar. I mean, think about it. It's way easier for a whole team to talk about Yogi Rock than it is to remember target A2J7. And more than that, it turns a cold data point into a character in this grand story of exploration. It creates a real, personal connection between the scientist and the thing they're studying. So what does this all mean? As we keep pushing the boundaries of what we know, from the tiniest particles to the most distant worlds, this simple little habit of naming things, it actually reveals something really essential about us. It shows that no matter how far we go or how technical our work gets, we always bring our humanity along for the ride. Exploration, it turns out, isn't just about collecting data. It's about trying to make sense of this incredible universe and figuring out our own place in it.